Today, let's talk about one of the many reasons why you can go to therapy for years and still not get better. In fact, you may even get worse. When psychologists are not exacting in their definitions and the terms they use, and they lack proper principles to guide their thought, they end up completely inadvertently reinforcing your neurosis. They teach you how to understand yourself in a way that quietly blames everybody around you. Right? There's a lot of insight, but no context, right? No conceptual framework to put that insight. You have no place to put that insight properly. So the responsibility ends up slipping through your fingers. As an example of this inadvertent responsibility abdication, enter one Dr. Alok Kanojoy, aka Healthy Gamer. He has a popular channel on YouTube. And his most popular video is called Why Gifted Kids Are Actually Special Needs. And this video beautifully showcases this inadvertent responsibility abdication and why it means certain doom for you, the client. Healthy Gamer says there are 3 reasons why gifted kids are actually special needs. The first one is they're not challenged enough at school, so they don't develop proper work and study habits. The second reason is they compare themselves with others more. So what happens with gifted kids, more often, I guess, is they are praised for their attributes. They're praised for being smart, not their behavior. So what ends up happening is that you challenge yourself less, which, does make you more fragile, and more fragility can lead to this kind of zero-sum thinking, this comparison. And the third reason why gifted kids are actually special needs is because they have a lot of shame. And shame, Healthy Gamer says, comes from that distance between the expectations up here and your performance down here. And in this gap resides the shame. And this all sounds nice, and I can't really disagree with any of it, except it's not psychology. This is not psychology. Healthy Gamer is focused on how the environment affected you when you were a child. Look, you were praised incorrectly. Look at this. Look at these unreasonable expectations placed on you. Now, you weren't challenged correctly. This is sociology, which is how the environment shapes the individual, or how you inadvertently let the environment shape you, without your awareness, which isn't wrong. It's just not that helpful when it comes to changing who you are. I mean, it's as helpful as a neuroscience textbook, right? It's not wrong, just not the right resolution. Obviously, the environment can affect your psychology, but if that's what you're focused on, that's not psychology. You're not going to grow, and that is the basis of the conceptual rot here. Your psychology would be how you shape who you are, or how you, of course, inadvertently let the environment shape you outside of your awareness, how you relate with yourself through the unifying principle of psychology, your emotion, that would then cause you to go on and have these symptoms like comparison, poor work ethic, and shame, right? And this is true regardless of what goes on around you, which does affect you, of course. It's just not psychology. It is not therapy. You need to look at your psychology now. We only look at the past to uncover what's happening now. It's not so much what happened to the child. It's what happened to the child. Yeah, we can go through that, and how you perpetuate what happened to you as a child now. Right? What got you in the issue is what's keeping you in the issue. We're not blaming the child. We're not even blaming you now. We're only looking at how you are responsible, for the feelings you have about what happened to you as a child. And look, it's good to know. It's good to even enumerate what happened to you as a child, but it's not the main thing. And if you treat that as the main thing, you're going to be lost. You're going to get stuck. You're going to build up your resentment. So let's look at the psychology of why gifted kids are actually special needs, the psychology of it. To the poor study habits, right? Healthy Gamer says you're not challenged enough at school, except, what happens here What gifted kids do, I mean, what all kids do naturally is they challenge themselves. That's what happens. I mean, how else do we find our place in the world? How else do we find out what we're interested in? We challenge ourselves to do new things. It's in us. Nobody has to convince a child to challenge himself. So maybe the school's not challenging this gifted kid, but why were you as a gifted kid not going out and challenging yourself? Well, because there's something wrong with your psychology, with your relationship, with the child's relationship with the parents, because the child's psychology is inseparable from his relationship with the parents. So why didn't you get involved in your own way when you were a child? Maybe you felt like your parents didn't care about you, right? They the only way you could get noticed maybe from your parents is to perform, right? And that created this kind of disconnection. Maybe, you felt like a burden. You felt like your parents had their own issues going on. You brought up that one time to your mom that you wanted to do, I don't know, something that would challenge you, some extracurricular activity. And when you said it, she said, oh, okay, yeah, we can do that. Then she forgot about it and went on to complaining about her boyfriend. Regardless of what happens, it comes down to you are not communicating properly with the parents. Great. What were you not communicating? Why are you still not communicating it? Hey, I bet it probably has something to do with the poor work habits, the laziness now, or to the comparison. It's wrong for parents to praise the attribute rather than the behavior. Honestly, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. I mean, as long as you know what you're doing, but it's not what your parents did to you. It's how you felt about what your parents did to you. You probably felt like, the expectations placed on you that made you feel at the time a lot of pressure, like you're trying to save your family. Okay, great. Look at who you're trying to save now and how that comes through in your pattern of communication, which is maladaptive and so gives rise to these symptoms. These symptoms that include, comparison. Right? You relate with yourself in a way that's demeaning. You live a life that's demeaning. So you look for meaning in your life through comparison, which you are usually going to lose. And then the self-loathing itself becomes the payoff from that. We'll save that for another video. Or to the shame, right? Healthy Gamer says shame comes from the space between the expectations up here, your performance down here. And so his advice ends up, it's just ridiculous. His advice ends up being, okay, so this is where shame comes from. So what do you do? If this is your principle behind shame, what do? You either achieve your expectations. Yeah, thanks for that advice. Okay, so I'm not living up to my expectations. So your advice is to achieve them. Thanks. Thanks for that terrible. Just low. You can't get any lower resolution than that. So either just achieve your expectations, dummy, Troy McClure, get confident, stupid, that kind of thing. Or lower your expectations, which Healthy Gamer says to do through awareness, just vaguely awareness, right? There's a lot of sloppiness here, though the main sloppiness is what Healthy Gamer is doing here, right? Is he's treating all expectations as the same. Whose expectations are they that you're not living up to? They're probably your father's, your father who's an alcoholic. So maybe expectations aren't the problem. The problem is the expectation doesn't come from you, right? Or you could just learn to develop your own expectation, right? And you'll be okay with not living up to them when you don't, because you're not trying to prove yourself anymore. But even still, since the expectations come from you now, you will be more likely to meet them because you actually care about them, right? Imagine that. Your expectations are no longer, this artifact from someone who is really just using you as a proxy for their own, sense of self. The real reason why you felt this shame about these expectations isn't because of the expectations. It isn't because you you're trying to live up to these expectations back then, it's because you're still doing that now and you're not pushing back and saying, no, I actually don't want that. I want to do this other thing. And maybe you don't even know how to develop the muscle that gets you to the place from which you can then say, no, I want to do this other thing. Right? The shame doesn't come from the expectations back then. Psychologically, the shame comes from being a wuss now. So all Healthy Gamer ends up doing here is itemizing the symptoms gifted kids experience when they're disconnected. Right? He doesn't address the problem. It's the connection between the child and the parent. Right? What was the pattern that developed in childhood? How are you perpetuating that pattern now? How does that pattern make itself known in your relationships now, i.e. in your pattern of communication in those relationships? If you are not looking at that directly, then you're just going to end up, keep calling yourself a gifted kid well into your 30s. And this is not to pick on Healthy Gamer. Again, really, this is where psychology is. It's at the place where there's not even a conception of what psychology is or what therapy is. So how could you go deeper into it if you wanted to? And this is why people, end up spending years in therapy. They get really knowledgeable about these terms like attachment styles, ADHD, generational patterns, and still be crippled by procrastination because nobody knows how to look at precisely the unconscious feelings that drive your maladaptive behaviors now. The funny thing, though, is Healthy Gamer actually does talk about responsibility. He comes in at the end with I'm not saying you can't be responsible too, which is telling. I think it really highlights, what does it highlight? How obtuse he is about this? I mean, because he sees it, right? He sees the responsibility. He just doesn't know what it is. So he just glosses over it with zero detail, treats it like an optional add-on package. Right? Like, oh, I guess you could be responsible too. And this makes people more resentful, not less. You can be in favor of all the cool, comfortable air you want. But if you don't know what an air conditioner is, if you don't know what the parts are, if you don't know how to dissect those parts, then you're just going to end up with sweaty tits. Right? So yeah, Healthy Gamer shows why the field's stuck. He talks about what's happening out there in the past, even not what's happening in here now. Shame. Talks about shame, but what's the mechanism behind it? Expectations, but what is your unconscious authority structure, that gives rise to the expectations? And this is why people drift. The popular thing now is these identity-based diagnoses, my nervous system, that kind of thing. And it's why psychology is not a field. This Gifted Kids video is a perfect demonstration of that and how inadvertently, hurtful it can be to the clients because of it, right? The field is stuck. So people stay stuck. How's that for some victimhood for you? So to learn the principles of either psychology or therapy, check out my books, link in the description. And if you want to work with me, joinanimus.com/schedule. You have no idea. Simply reaching out and letting me know what's going on with you in a 45-minute phone call may be all the help you need. So thank you for staying to the end. I'm sure I'll link a related video somewhere around here. So thanks for staying to the end. And I wish you all the pain and joy that comes from realizing that the problem you have with your parents is really just a problem you keep having with yourself.